everybody. Evan Freiberger here, and unfortunately, I've got some new updates that are not really good news. Again, for today, also for tomorrow, and the next day, we've got a lot to talk about, going over what the severe weather is going to do in terms of very strong tornadoes possible. Long track, violent tornadoes are going to be possible tomorrow, and also very large hail, damaging winds. All of these things are going to kind of accumulate going into the next couple days, and it's going to be very dangerous. So this is definitely a forecast that if you live in some of the areas that are on the thumbnail, that you are going to want to pay attention to as we move forward. So before we get started, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and let's get right into it. All right, looking at the rest of today, as you can see, we do have pretty large area where severe weather is going to be possible, really all the way from Texas going up into the Great Lakes region, down into the Tennessee Valley, southeast, and the southeast east coast. As you can see, we still have an enhanced risk out there down here near Dallas, over here near parts of Fort Smith, the Waco, Killeen are all going to be in the risk for large hail and damaging winds, and you can't rule out a tornado down there. Also got an enhanced risk up here, there near Quincy, Jacksonville, and Hannibal. Again, some damaging winds and large hail are going to be possible up there as well. And, you know, believe it or not, that is not the only day that we're going to be talking about severe weather. Not just today, we're going to be talking about tomorrow as well. So let's get into tomorrow. We have a pretty big upgrade here to the risk. As you can see, we have an enhanced risk all the way from areas like Wichita Falls up to Dodge City, Hayes, Topeka, over here near Missouri, little parts there of Arkansas, and also Oklahoma. And the big kind of thing that's the elephant in the room here is this moderate risk. That's 4 to 5 for severe weather, and that's going to be for areas like Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Bartlesville, Wichita, Hutchinson, Great Bend, Emporia. Then we got a slight risk around that extends all the way from parts of Nebraska down into Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas. And the main things that are going to be a big issue on this day is going to be the tornado threat. I mean, we got a 15% hatched risk here for tornadoes. That's going to be for like Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Bartlesville, Wichita, Hutchinson, Great Bend. Got a yellow area around that is a 10% chance for those strong tornadoes as well. Wichita Falls, Altus, Elk City, Woodward, Dodge City, Emporia. You can see that it's a pretty large area here, extending from Kansas going into Oklahoma and northern Texas, where these tornadoes are going to be possible. And again, we're talking about pretty large tornadoes, but I will say it's a little bit of a conditional threat. It's not a guarantee still, and we're going to be going over that in the models after we go over these next couple days of risks here. But going into the wind risk, you can see another big issue for tomorrow is going to be the potential for another damaging wind event. That's going to be mainly over here in parts of Kansas, over there near Manhattan, Hutchinson, Wichita, Bartlesville, Joplin, Kansas City, Topeka. In all these areas, you know, we're going to be expecting those 75-mile-per-hour winds and above there. We got a yellow region around that, and also a brown region around that as well. Damaging winds are also going to be possible up here in parts of the Northeast and Ohio Valley, and going down into the Southeast too. But it's a low chance, but still can't rule out some severe weather there. Coming over to the hail risk here, you can see we have another large to very large hail risk here for, again, northern Texas going into Oklahoma. Parts of Kansas and southern Nebraska there are going to either have a 30% chance in the red here or a 15% chance in the yellow for seeing large to very large hail, potentially 2, 3, maybe even 4-inch hail is going to be possible with some of the supercells that are going to be firing out in this region. Around that, you can see we got another kind of unhatched red area and yellow area. That's a 30% in the red, 15% in the yellow for quarter-sized hail and above. And then we have a hail risk over here in parts of the Ohio Valley and the Northeast that need to be watching out for a small chance of that quarter-sized hail and above. Going over to day 3, you can see that we also have another severe thunderstorm risk out here, 3 out of 5 in the enhanced risk here. That's going to be for parts of St. Louis, Springfield, Bloomington, Indianapolis, Louisville. Get a yellow around that, extending all the way from parts of Ohio, going into Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Mississippi, Alabama. Also a large portion there of Tennessee and Kentucky. And we got a marginal risk around that in the green. And it seems like the area where we're going to be expecting the most significant weather out of this event is going to be centered over here near like Indianapolis, Louisville, St. Louis, Springfield, Urbana, and Bloomington. So a couple days here here, where we got to really pay attention to the weather as it comes through. I mean, 3 days again of some pretty high caliber severe weather is going to be possible. Today, I'm deciding to take a little bit of a break off just because, I need to let my voice heal, need to let my energy get back up because it could be a very busy couple of days after this. So, all right, moving that to about 3 p.m., 4 p.m. today, we're going to have some storms starting to fire off over here in parts of Illinois, southern Wisconsin. That is going to extend all the way down to Missouri, Arkansas, parts of Oklahoma, down there near Dallas. Pushing this forward a little bit more, you can see that still have some storms up here with that large hail risk being possible and potential for some very large hail, especially down here in parts of Oklahoma and Texas. Can't rule out a tornado with any of these parts of the storms, but up here, that seems like the tornado risk should be higher. Again, we got that 5% up there near Bloomington, Springfield, and Davenport over there near Chicago. But yeah, so that's what we're looking at there. Let's kind of look at the environment for these storms really quick. So if we go over into the lower levels, yeah, we got a decent amount of winds up there near the Illinois area, and also not as much upper level winds, but some there. So there's definitely going to be some spin in the atmosphere. I would keep an eye out for a tornado or two, definitely up there. Pushing this 2 hours forward, you can see that the storms are starting to enter into Indiana over there, into Michigan as well, bringing a damaging wind threat and a hail threat with it. The tornado risk should be lower here as the line's more linear. Then we still have some severe weather possible over there near St. Louis, going into Arkansas, and then south of Dallas, there near the Waco and Killeen area, is starting to see some of that severe weather. And then as we get into the overnight hours, the risk up here starts to kind of minimize. Still a little bit of a severe risk there just to the east of Springfield there in the Boot Hill of Missouri, and then south of Dallas, over there just to the north of Austin, still have some cells firing there as they push off to the south and east. And then most of the severe weather threat will be done for like the northern portion and the Texas region, but we're still going to have a couple embedded lines in this thing. One down here in Arkansas and another one potentially there in Tennessee that could still have some severe weather threat. Not super elevated, mainly just damaging winds, maybe some large hail possible going into the early morning hours. I mean, we're looking at like 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and then finally, it looks like most of the country is out of the severe weather threat. But then that brings us over here to the next day, where the atmosphere is going to slowly recover. And one of the things that we're watching for that recovery is the instability of the fuel, the fire for the storm to kind of or the logs, I guess you could say, or the twigs that are going to be feeding the fire of the storms to come up here back into the Oklahoma and Kansas area. And if we push this forward, you can see that there is plenty of sticks and wood and some would even call this jet fuel here for the storms as that pushes up to the north and east. It's a lot of instability there for the storms to tap into. If we look at the composite reflectivity, you can see we do have some storms firing there near the Oklahoma City area, and that and here's the kicker. All right, these storms, any storm that kind of fires in this environment is going to have the potential for very large hail, damaging winds, but also strong tornado. Cannot be ruled out with the potential also for violent tornadoes as well. And you can see we have a couple supercells in and around that area. It looks like the severe weather event should get started sometime around 5 to 7 p.m. If it does, again, there's a little bit of an asterisk on that, and we'll go over that in just a second. But yeah, those storms kind of fire off to the east, move up to the north there, and then we see this MCS form on the northern side here, going into Kansas by around 11 p.m. That's going to bring a damaging wind threat into parts of Kansas City and Missouri, and a large hail threat as well as that pushes off to the east into the next day. And then after this is going to be the remnant low that kind of brings in some more severe weather going into the next day. But yeah, I mean, it's just as you can see, it's just these storms here. It's not a whole lot of widespread severe weather. A lot of folks might not even see anything. And the main reason why it's so sparse is if we go over here to the CIN, or the convective inhibition, or the water that is being poured onto the fire. Here initially, let's kind of go back in time here. You can see that as the environment starts to build up here, that there's going to be a cap in place. the cap in place. That's essentially there's going to be water trying to pour on the storms, but it does look like some of these storms are going to be able to fire into that cap if they can, if they can fire before this cap tries to build back in. But you can see as the later in the day that we get, the lower the chances that these storms are going to have to fire. So, if we're at around 8 or 9 p.m. and we don't see anything, then we might not get too much out of this storm. So it's not a guarantee, but if storms do fire, they are going to be very dangerous. So if you live in these areas, just make sure you're weather aware as the storm comes through, as it could be an issue. Now going on to the next day here. You can see that we have that enhanced risk out there. Let's bring the model all the way up so we can start to look at this event. Okay, so now you see that little kind of initial wave comes through. There could be a little bit of a spin up threat still with that as that pushes off to the east. We've been seeing that multiple times where these kind of MCSs last a little bit longer than expected. But as we go into the peak heating hours of Sunday, you can see that we do have some storms fire here, and it's in quite the ripe environment. If we look at the spin in the atmosphere, there's a decent amount there in the lower levels, and if we go into the upper levels, you can also see that there's also a decent amount there. If we look at the kind of logs, the sticks, the jet fuel for the storm, not as much as the day before, but still plenty there to support some pretty significant severe weather. I mean, we're talking about damaging winds, the chances for tornadoes, and also some large to very large hail being possible. And the main threat should start sometime at around 3 to 5 p.m. There near like Jefferson City, St. Louis. Could start a little bit earlier, and that's going to push down to the east by around 6 p.m. We could still have a strong line of storms pushing down into Indianapolis, still bringing that tornado threat. And then we are expecting this to push down to the south and east throughout the day and carry that severe threat into the night and into the early morning hours of the next day. And then also a little bit further south, we've got to watch for a little bit more of a discrete mode here with these supercells down here. Let's kind of look at the environment a little bit more for southern Missouri and Arkansas, going over to the winds. Yeah, I mean, there could definitely be some spin-up tornadoes down there as well, as there is a decent amount of spin in the atmosphere down there as well. So these storms are also going to have to be watched as they track a little bit more to the east-northeast there, going into like Little Rock, Pine Bluff, Jonesboro, Nashville, Murfreesboro, Tupelo, and Huntsville there into the future. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay weather aware if you're in any of these severe areas. And again, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And I will see you guys tomorrow bright and early to cover the storms.